I heard them say major malfunction, and then the person beside me said it's exploded.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're examining 20 of the most shocking things that ever occurred on live television.
But this time, one fan went too far, and for it, he paid the ultimate price.
Tommy Cooper. Known for his massive frame and red fez, Tommy Cooper was a brilliant entertainer who fused magic with comedy, creating an act that was famous on British TV. Unfortunately, he was also a very unhealthy man, being a heavy smoker and drinker. On April 15, 1984, Cooper performed in front of 12 million viewers on a variety show called Live from Her Majesty's.
Oh, who did it?
Partway through his act, Cooper became unresponsive and collapsed. As he was known for his kooky brand of humor, the audience thought it was all part of the act and laughed, not knowing that he had suffered a fatal heart attack.
My wife said, "Oh, there can't be anything wrong because they would have cut it out." And I said, "No, it's live."
Cooper was rushed to the hospital, but was announced dead on arrival.
He's left a gap, Ernie, hasn't he?
We shall miss him very much.
The Hillsborough disaster.
And welcome to Hillsborough. The sun has come out to greet you.
Live sporting events can certainly end in disaster and broadcast death to millions of viewers. On April 15, 1989, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest were playing each other in the FA Cup semi-final. Liverpool fans were only given one access point into the stadium, resulting in a severe bottleneck. The oppressive overcrowding eventually led to a fatal crush, as thousands of spectators were trapped in the fenced-in standing pen.
The influx of fans caused severe crushing in the two pens.
Over 90 died and nearly 800 were injured. 3 more victims passed throughout the years from their injuries, bringing the death toll to 97. The tragedy was initially blamed on hooliganism, but later inquiries found that the design of the stadium and the negligence of the police were responsible.
The extent to which tragedy has touched the game throughout the whole country and beyond these shores is apparent.
The Boxing Day Tsunami. News channels worldwide tuned in to Southeast Asia on December 26, 2004. to cover what is now known as the Boxing Day Tsunami. The most powerful earthquake in recorded Asian history struck off the coast of Sumatra, resulting in enormous tsunamis that measured up to 100 feet high.
Over the next few hours, the tsunami would crash over coastlines from Southeast Asia to East Africa.
These tsunamis crashed into the surrounding coastal areas, killing over 220,000 people. Viewers watching from home were given devastating images of the tragedy, like entire villages destroyed and inundated with water.
It was a big biblical, almost like a CGI event from a film.
The visuals also helped aid in the humanitarian response, with countries from around the world raising $14 billion to help aid in the recovery.
On the first anniversary, ceremonies were held across the region.
Shannon Stone. The ballpark in Arlington opened in April 1994 and was immediately met with tragedy. During the very first game in the stadium, a fan fell over a railing in right field and broke numerous bones. It would be an ominous sign of things to come. Fast forward to July 7, 2011, with the Rangers playing the Athletics. A foul ball went into left field, and Josh Hamilton threw it to fan Shannon Stone, who was attending the game with his 6-year-old son. Stone reached for the ball and flipped over the railing, falling 20 feet and landing head first on the concrete below.
Our staff were very heavy-hearted about this, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. While
he was conscious following the fall, he died of blunt force trauma on the way to the hospital.
He was a great father, and they're inseparable.
The Phoenix News helicopter collision. Tragedy can strike at any time, even while covering a seemingly innocuous police pursuit. Phoenix stations KNXV-TV and KTVK were both covering the chase via helicopter and airing it live on their respective stations. During the chase, one reporter yells in surprise while the camera turns to static and a metallic screeching noise can be heard. The anchor back in the station looks at the camera in surprise and simply states, "We don't know what has just happened right there." What happened was that both news helicopters collided in midair, sending both to the ground and killing all 4 people on board. Today, all English-language news stations in Phoenix share one helicopter to prevent further tragedies of this kind.
The safety factor is that those are lives up there.
The death of Dale Earnhart. When someone is at the top of their game, it seems like they are invincible.
I'm even stronger this year. I'm working out and staying in shape.
Dale Earnhardt is a NASCAR legend, having won 7 Cup Series championships. But his life came to an end on February 18, 2001, when Earnhardt was racing in the Daytona 500.
Dale Earnhardt,
has died from a crash suffered in Sunday's Daytona 500.
On the very last turn of the final lap, Earnhart made contact with two other cars and crashed head-on into the retaining wall at 160 miles per hour. One of the racers that Earnhart had hit rushed over to his car and, after looking inside, waved frantically for the paramedics. He knew immediately that Earnhart was gone, but his death wasn't officially announced for another 2 hours.
We've lost Dale Earnhardt.
The shooting of Alison Parker and Adam Ward. On the early morning of August 26, 2015, news reporter Alison Parker was interviewing Vicki Gardner, the director of the local Chamber of Commerce, about upcoming activities at Smith Mountain Lake. Also in attendance was photojournalist Adam Ward, who was filming the segment for Roanoke's WDBJ. At exactly 6:46 a.m., gunshots rang out and Ward's camera dropped to the ground before footage switched back to the studio.
This place is in shock, as you might expect.
An ex-employee of WDBJ who was fired for volatile behavior committed the shooting, killing both Parker and Ward and injuring Gardner.
I find my grief unbearable. Not hearing her voice again crushes my soul.
A manhunt ensued, and the perpetrator eventually took his own life.
A growing memorial at this station in shock.
Daniel V. Jones. After it was found that he had both cancer and HIV, a distraught Daniel Jones decided to take his own life and protest American health care in the process. To do so, he decided that he would die on live TV.
At least 8 local stations did what they always do. Sent news helicopters to the scene and broke in with live coverage of the event.
He called the police on himself and proceeded to act erratically on the LA freeway, throwing things off a bridge, making obscene gestures at the news helicopters, and unfurling a protest banner about greedy HMOs. And then things got violent. Jones proceeded to light his truck on fire, and after walking around stunned and disoriented, he took his own life with a shotgun.
A lot of the LA news anchors immediately called it a tragedy.
All of this was shown on live TV in graphic detail, leading to widespread criticism of Los Angeles news stations.
There was really no way that we could anticipate what this man was about to do.
The 1992 Los Angeles riots. For almost a week in the spring of 1992, Los Angeles was on fire, and all the various news stations were there to capture it.
This thing is swelling as the minutes go by.
The riot began after the 4 police officers charged with beating Rodney King were acquitted, and they continued unabated for 6 days, resulting in 63 deaths, thousands of injuries, and over $1 billion in property damage. The riot was extensively covered in the mainstream media, capturing widespread acts of vandalism, destruction, and intentional harm.
We are hearing loud noises. I don't know what they are.
This includes the attack on truck driver Reginald Denny, who was pulled from his vehicle and nearly beaten to death in front of live news helicopters.
I remember the events of that day like it was yesterday. It just does not go away.
Waco. On February 28, 1993, agents of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms attempted to serve an arrest warrant on the Branch Davidians, a cult running out of Mount Carmel Center in rural Texas. A gunfight erupted, resulting in 10 deaths.
Huge numbers of Americans watched this play out on their television sets, and the ending was incredibly horrifying.
This shooting instigated the Waco siege, with the FBI stationed outside Mount Carmel for nearly 2 months, while the Branch Davidians remained inside. The siege ended in tragedy on April 19th, when a massive fire burned down the complex and killed over 70 people.
Winds fanned the flames and reduced the entire property to ash within an hour.
To this day, the events of Waco are fiercely debated, with the fire being blamed on both parties. Regardless, it was a media sensation that resulted in enormous controversy for the American government.
This is not an assault. We are not entering the building.
The Manila hostage crisis. Philippine National Police Officer Rolando Mendoza was fired in 2009. 1 year later, on August 23, 2010, Mendoza embarked on a tragically misaimed attempt to get his job back.
A tourist bus is accosted by a man who at first makes out to be a policeman.
He planned to hijack a bus and hold it hostage until he was given a chance to defend himself in court. The crisis lasted hours, and the negotiations between Mendoza and the police played out on live TV. But then Mendoza's brother Gregorio illegally crossed the exclusion zone to speak to Rolando, leading to his arrest. Enraged by his brother's arrest, which he saw occur through live news reports on the bus, Mendoza began executing hostages. 9 people were killed, including Mendoza, who was ultimately shot by a sniper.
Pwede naman siguro, ewan ko kung paano ma-block yung parachute sa kanyang sa TV niya.
The Munich Massacre. According to the CBC, the Munich Massacre was the first time that an act of terrorism was aired on live television, with approximately 900 million people tuning in to watch the events unfold. It started on September 5, 1972, when a militant organization called Black September raided the Summer Olympics and targeted the Israeli team. 2 people were immediately killed in the raid, and 9 others were taken hostage, with Black September demanding the release of Palestinian prisoners. But like the Manila crisis, this too ended in disaster.
In Israel, the reaction to the massacre was one of horrified disbelief.
After a failed rescue attempt by the West German police, all 9 hostages were ruthlessly executed. 5 terrorists and a police officer were also killed in the attack, bringing the death toll to 17.
I stood there in the room, and the chaos was incredible.
The Ayrton Senna crash.
Formula One and the world were struck a grievous blow.
Much like Dale Earnhardt, Ayrton Senna is a highly decorated racer, winning the Formula One World Drivers' Championship on 3 separate occasions.
The desire to be ahead, to be the fastest.
Driving for Williams-Renault, Senna won the first 3 pole positions during the 1994 World Championship, including at San Marino. But it was at San Marino that he lost his life. As Senna was turning the famous Tamburello corner on lap 7, he ran off the track and collided with the retaining wall at 145 miles per hour. His temporal artery was ruptured in the crash, necessitating immediate roadside treatment. Unfortunately, the injuries were just too grave, and Senna passed away. A doctor later declared that Senna had likely died immediately upon hitting the wall, as his brain had effectively stopped functioning.
His consummate skill, his commanding presence, and his combination of talents literally made him a legend in his lifetime.
Columbine. America stood still on April 20th, 1999, when Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold murdered over 10 and personally injured more than 20 in Colorado's Columbine High School.
Investigators say this attack appears to have been carefully planned for a long time.
At the time, it was the deadliest high school shooting in American history, and its aftermath played out in horrifying fashion on live TV. Reporters spoke outside the school, and survivors were interviewed after escaping and fleeing to safety.
I don't even know if people are going to be able to walk back in the school again.
Perhaps the most famous live image of the shooting was the grievously injured Patrick Ireland climbing out of the library window and falling onto a nearby vehicle. Ireland survived and became known as the boy in the window. So iconic and proliferated was the image throughout the mainstream media.
A beacon of light and strength and courage.
Hurricane Katrina. Natural disasters are fodder for live TV, as news stations try to keep viewers updated on any and all developments.
The winds have really picked up here significantly over the last half hour.
It happened with the Boxing Day tsunami, and it happened with Hurricane Katrina. Occurring in late August of 2005, Katrina is widely known for hitting New Orleans, where the situation was made worse by fatal flaws in the city's levees.
It's hitting bad right now, Miles. Winds easily gusting to 100 miles an hour.
Most of the city was destroyed and left underwater, and the visuals of such were widely shared in the media. When all was said and done, Katrina caused $190 billion in damage and killed thousands.
Thousands make their way to the Superdome and Convention Center in hopes of being evacuated.
Christine Chuuk. The first person to take their own life on live TV was Christine Chuuk, a news reporter working for Florida's WXLT.
It appears that we're having some technical difficulty.
Chuuk suffered from depression, which was mainly fueled by her loneliness and inability to find a partner. With her 30th birthday quickly approaching, Chuuk fell into despair over what she perceived as a failed social life. After throwing what many colleagues consider to be a goodbye party, Chuuk took her own life on July 15, 1974.
TV 30 presents what is believed to be a television first.
After reading a series of news stories, Chuuk took out a .38 caliber revolver and shot herself behind the right ear. The director immediately cut to black, but it was too late for the live viewers who had witnessed Chuuk's final moments.
She's in critical condition in a Sarasota hospital.
The 2011 Tohoku tsunami. Another natural disaster, more live destruction. This one occurred on March 11, 2011, when a massive earthquake struck off the east coast of Japan. It was the most powerful earthquake in Japanese history, and caused waves that measured up to 130 feet and traveled almost 430 miles per hour.
It was the largest quake ever known in Japan, and one of the 5 largest recorded in the world.
The destruction killed nearly 20,000 people, and hundreds of thousands more were injured and displaced. It also directly caused the Fukushima nuclear accident, which was also extensively covered in the news, and which also displaced thousands. The tsunami remains the costliest natural disaster in human history, causing upwards of $300 billion in damage.
It's been over an hour and a half, and we're still seeing large tsunamis moving and hitting the area.
R. Bud Dwyer. On January 20th, 1981, R. Bud Dwyer became the 70th Treasurer of Pennsylvania, and he would remain as such for the next 6 years. Unfortunately, Dwyer was embroiled in a scandal when it was found that he accepted a bribe from Computer Technology Associates to award them with a contract regarding a state tax issue.
After a trial that lasted over a month, both men were found guilty.
He was found guilty, and his sentencing was scheduled for January 23, 1987. He could have faced around 50 years in prison.
Right up until the end, Dwyer maintained his innocence.
But the day before his sentence was to be handed down, Dwyer held a news conference and subsequently shot himself with a revolver. He died instantly, with one news camera capturing the event and broadcasting it on live television.
The incident caught viewers off guard.
The Challenger disaster. Every 80s kid surely remembers the Challenger disaster. There was a ton of hype behind this launch, led mainly by the Teacher in Space project, which allowed New Hampshire school teacher Krista McAuliffe to fly with 6 other astronauts.
And liftoff. Liftoff.
The project was enormously popular, generating widespread interest in the Challenger launch and kickstarting a cultural fascination with space exploration. As a result, schools around the country tuned in and allowed their students to watch the Challenger launch live on TV. But on January 28, 1986, they all watched the space shuttle explode in real time, killing everyone on board.
At 11:40 a.m. this morning, space program experienced a national tragedy.
It was a national disaster of epic proportions, and one that will never be forgotten.
I thought it was a dream. I was speechless for a few minutes.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. 9/11. September 11th, 2001 is a day that will live in infamy.
We believe that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
It's one of those days that people will never forget, where they remember exactly where they were and what they were doing when they learned about it. Virtually everything about 9/11 was aired live on TV, immediately following the first plane crash and proceeding throughout the following days and weeks.
The scope of this disaster is impossible to comprehend.
Scheduled shows and programs were halted to cover the news, and viewers watching at home witnessed things like the second plane hitting the South Tower and both towers collapsing in real time. These are indelible images that will forever remain burned into memory.
Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
Did you see any of these live? Let us know in the comments below.
Over the next few days, we are going to hear many stories of desperate escapes and close calls.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.